Well, hello, hello, Internet, what's going on? Let's get the show on the road. And welcome to this 60th live stream, if my counting is correct. This would be the 60th Traction Point live stream that we have done here on this channel. Time flies, and so on. Today we're going to do a little bit of terrain sculpting, but not the kind of terrain sculpting that I typically do here on the channel, which would be like what we are driving on here right now. You can see, by the way, that I've basically done like a modeling pass on the cliffs here in this area. So, awaiting decoration and also, of course, perhaps most of all, mission implementation. But we actually have like a basic set of cliffs now covering this area. So, hey Eddie, welcome to the stream. Welcome back to the stream, I should say. But no, today we're gonna take a look at background terrain. How's it going? Well, it's going pretty well. It's going pretty well. You can still hear from my voice that I have some business with the allergies going on, which is a little annoying. I'm trying to like kind of not really care about that. But there's also always the possibility that I'll just completely lose my voice during the stream. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Other than that, it's going pretty well. Been busy at work with this area of this part of the new level here, and approaching some sort of white box state or stage. I'm pretty happy with how this is turning out. Not exactly sure how I'm going to actually create the final version of these cliffs. They have quite a lot of like intersecting geometry. Hey Cactus, welcome back. But I'm kind of liking the look of this. It's kind of interesting. Anyway, I started doing a little bit of background terrain here. As you can see, this sort of faint, almost like dune looking things here. So this is supposed to be sort of just like pretty low resolution background geometry, which is supposed to give the illusion to the player here that right, we are on top of this big cliff here. There is also some stuff below the cliff out there on the plain, but it's not supposed to be super high resolution. And you can see here that actually what I have done is arguably a bit too low resolution. You can see clearly like a zigzag pattern here with this sort of resolution. What we have going on here. This doesn't look very good. This doesn't look very good at all. And so I have a plan for how to do this better. I don't know if it's gonna work. I truly don't. But we can have a look and see if it does. Let me know how the audio levels are. If you can hear me well, first of all, I think I'm gonna lower the music just a smidge here. But do let me know if you can hear me well enough. And hopefully we can avoid the embarrassment audio levels that we had last time. Okay, so let's open Blender. I'm gonna spend quite a lot of time in Blender today, I think. Like basically I could model that, I could just sculpt that terrain for the background right there in the game engine editor. But I don't think I necessarily want to do that. I think instead I want to kind of have it as a sort of a mesh that I bring into the game. Probably quite low resolution actually. And then I'll put like a normal map on it or something like that, because you're not gonna be driving on that. Doesn't need to be high resolution at all. And having a mesh there is just like, it's just more lightweight than a terrain. A terrain in the game engine currently has a very uniform sort of tessellation going on, just like a normal height map. So it looks basically like this. Go here and you can see that we just have this very regular sort of height map tessellation going on for the terrains in the game. That is useful when you want to be able to specify like physics properties on a reasonably high sort of almost like per triangle basis. Well, it is actually on a per triangle basis. And we can also feed this directly to the physics engine. It's actually getting scaled down for the physics by I think half is what I have it set to currently. But still, we don't need it. We don't need to like triangulate it at this level for the background. That's not really needed at all. So currently it looks like this in Blender. So even though this is like arguably a little too low resolution for some of these areas, and you can see here again like clearly sort of a zigzag pattern on some of these, and I think you could see it even better in the game engine. Like this doesn't look good. Even though you can see this, the mesh is actually kind of highly tessellated here. Like if we hide this, you see that we have 13,000 vertices for this background terrain here. So it's like too high resolution and too low resolution at the same time. And what I mean by that is that like we don't need to tessellate it out here on this plane almost at all, or indeed here on the back that the player is never really going to see. But then in some of these places where there's like more sort of high frequency data, we need more of that than we currently have. And so I previously had another background terrain thing going in Project Slide actually. So let's open slide data here and see. It's in Research Station, I think. Yeah, it's probably here. Yes. HMM. So that's a tool. It's an open source tool. It's called the Height Map Meshing Utility, HMM, which you can find on GitHub. And this guy is kind of interesting. You feed it a height map, and it gives you out a mesh. The output is always a binary STL file. So with this thing, if we open up another Blender instance here, and look at this. Let's get rid of everything and bring in the STL file. Where's the STL file? There we go. Tessellated STL. Yeah, I think that's probably fine. We're gonna have to scale it down. I'm sure. Yeah, it's over there and it's pretty big. It's way too big actually. Let's just scale that to like 0.1. All right, then here we can see like so. So here's the terrain. And this terrain, as you can see here, is much more tessellated here in these high frequency areas. So this is like another level that I was working on previously. The game level would be sitting here in the middle, like roughly around that place. And so all of this stuff here would actually be sort of under the like playable, drivable terrain, right? Which makes it kind of neat because like you don't actually ever see that. So we could essentially just like get rid of that completely. But if we don't want to do that, we at least want to keep the level of detail as low as possible. And I guess we could even like go in here and just like start merging some of these without it really affecting any of the visuals really at all. You know, stuff like that. But the important thing here is that where you want that sort of visual fidelity, you can have it. And we can go even further if we put in a shader here. And let's do like and just do like a diffuse BSDF thing here. Let's bring the color down a little bit. A bit brighter. So you have this thing, and then you can just throw a normal map on it. So the normal map, I think it's that one. And of course we need to make that be non-color. And then normal map color. And we plonk that into the actual color. Right. Actually, it doesn't really look like it makes a lot of difference. To have something wrong here. It's entirely possible. May just be that this diffuse BSDF is not really picking up on that. Let's bring back one of those principled BSDF. Base color, yeah, base color is probably fine. But we want that in the normal, of course. I'm not very good at using this material node graphs in Blender. I usually do all of my material stuff outside in my own tool. I do think that this should look better though than this. It's clearly like a little bit of there's a little bit of difference there in the visuals. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The important part is that we get this behavior. You know, underneath the level, we can have very low detail geometry, and then here in these parts, you have a lot of them. Yeah, that probably says Z. Oh, that says X in that direction and Z in that direction. Yeah, it's my arrows there, and we can do this sort of thing, but we need to give the HMM tool height map to work with, so that it produces this mesh for us that we can then further, you know, process and throw a height and a normal map on if we want to. So there's going to be a little bit of experimentation today. Can't be helped. That's just how it is. I'm wondering here if I should actually just yoink this out of Blender Sync and into a normal Blender file. That might make sense. You can see that we have a reasonably small area here around the level that we work with. This other big plane here is one of these distant object rendered objects, which means that they just sort of go on and on for thousands of world units. Where's the fog? Fog is right there. So we have this massive object here. We have just some like very rough approximation of mountains there in the background, but they actually look kind of neat when you turn on the fog. And I keep that as a separate object, and I will probably modify it just like I did for the other level. So rather than having these really crude mountains, or perhaps in addition to them, we would also actually have a little bit of displacement going on that. But that will be very low resolution stuff, low poly stuff. And I thought I would probably just like completely hand model them. I don't need to do any sort of sculpting or anything like that. Just for the terrain here closer to the actual level. Morning, Aku. All right, but let's get going. And see what we can come up with. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna save a copy of this guy, and let's go to basis data, means data, work folder root, and this would be depot. And we can do background terrain. And then inside of this we will create an underscore work folder. Hello Sugrada, welcome, or welcome back I should say. Do remember seeing you previously. So I'm just gonna call this probably, this would be just background terrain. I'm hoping to be able to do almost everything that we need in this Blender file. Except perhaps, we need to probably like, okay, so we have an agenda here. I'm gonna redo this, re-sculpt this terrain here in higher resolution that we currently have. That will give us the sort of fidelity that we want. Then I'm gonna attempt to export that as a height map from Blender, which is a little fiddly. I think I should be able to do it. And then we will feed it to the HMM utility, which will create that optimized mesh for us. And then we actually need to bring it back into Blender, but I think I might want to do that in a separate file. Well, let's see. I'm not sure. Let's move this into some like, let's create a new collection here, and we call this like old stuff and old version. Move that in there. Typically actually don't have any spaces in my names. So we can hide this. It was mostly just like a first test. I'm gonna want to sort of keep it around just to see what I kind of did. So the terrain needs to kind of reach up here a little bit. If we hide this, we can see that we have some details, some rocks and things here that kind of don't reach down very far. And of course we can make them do that, but it's kind of like not the idea. And then here also we want to make it reach up pretty far up, or pretty high up. And yeah, that should be good. So let's see what we can do. Hide that and create a new file, quite simply. So mesh and plane, and just scale that up like 20 times, scale it up 20 times again. All right, we can apply the scale, and then I can tweak these, twiddle and tweak these things. I think we actually want to first of all move it down so it sits right on the same level as the rest of the plane. And then make this just fit exactly in this slot that we have here. And then we need to be kind of careful, like how much do we actually subdivide this guy? We need to subdivide it quite a lot. I think the previous one was like override from the older Blender version. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I used 4.4 on the other one. Yeah, that's fine. Actually, that's the one we want to. I'm gonna cancel this edit. Just we get back to the editor here, we can save the level here. So we have the old one here still. That's fine. Bring it back to Blender. Now we don't have the server running anymore. And open recent background terrain. Right. Okay. So now subdivide this guy. Probably like 10 times. Can't subdivide more than that. I'm gonna do it once more. Like so. So this is pretty good. I'm not super familiar with the sculpting in Blender. I've done a little bit of sculpting, specifically for that previous game, where I had that other terrain and those mountains that we just looked at. But I'm not super, you know, experienced sculpting in Blender, so I'm gonna try to do my best here. It might be a little scary, but we'll see. So I have it locked to X and Y, so, because we don't want to sculpt sort of sideways, just only up and down, right? Because we are going to want to export this as a height map, so we can't have overhangs in this terrain. That's perfectly fine. It's supposed to be like a background thing anyway. Right. So how do we go about this then? Maybe we should turn on the Dyntopo still. Multi-res modifier. Right, I've been meaning to look at that. Maybe we don't need the Dyntopo. How does that work? Do I just add one of those here? Multi-resolution modifier. Yeah, this would be kind of interesting to sort of actually kind of look at. So we have level viewport 0, sculpt viewport 0, number of subdivisions used in sculpt mode, and then render mode. Okay. Right, okay. Quads. Yes, I have quads here, indeed. Let's see. Let's try it out. So if we have level viewport, number of subdivisions used in the viewports. I'm guessing that's like, you know, object or something, right? So if I go into sculpt mode, that's vertex paint. That's sculpt mode, and then I do, you know, something like this, and then I set the level viewport to subdivide. Aha. Okay. It's like it is in ZBrush. I have never ever opened ZBrush. I have never ever opened ZBrush, so I have no idea how that thing works. Right, so that now subdivided. Alright, neat. So now if we go here, okay. And we have this set to 0, and we can probably up that to 1. Oh, okay, alright, it takes like forever for it to do it. Huh. Is this what I want? Not sure. So it's still technically at this level, but then it does a subdivision. You have layers and level 0 is base, and add on top. So every level would subdivide it more and more. Okay. Which level do I work on then? Show wireframe? Huh? What? Okay, you know what? I'm gonna look into this. I'm gonna look into this offline. I have no doubt that you're absolutely right. I have no doubt that you're absolutely right. I should be using subdivision surface modifiers, but I don't know how they work currently, so I'm gonna chill with those today, and I'm gonna look into them. It shouldn't be super tricky to do this even without that. Right, so right, I just came for Blender 4.4 and it looks completely different there, but I can probably manage. So we have the strips somewhere. Draw. Yep, that's drawing. Cool. Sharp, clay. They're the strips, right. So I was using the strips previously to do this stuff. Okay. Oh, I'm undoing back into that modifier now. Yeah, I need to look into that to kind of figure out how that is to be used, right? So, sculpt mode. So I know that we want to kind of have it pretty sort of pretty high here, close to the level. So let's start from here, and let's just enable dynamic topography. That's sort of what the little I have actually sculpted in Blender. I've typically been using that, and it's working pretty well. The annoying thing is perhaps that it keeps shutting it off. Let's actually hide that for a second. Do a little bit of a base here. So control is removing. Excellent. And this can be like refine method. Let's see. Relative detail, constant detail. Constant, maybe that is the thing that I want. Probably not actually. I think that was probably what I want. Relative. Let's keep it at relative detail for now. So I want to sort of raise it up here so that it kind of matches. I'm doing this with a very large brush now, just to get sort of a base going here for more details later on. Truth be told, I do sculpting so very little in Blender that I kind of just haven't had time to look into many of these handy features that you have, like this multi-resolution stuff and all of that. To some extent, this stuff is similar to what I can already do in the editor, especially for terrain. And I would argue that I'm probably much more productive with my own terrain modeling stuff than doing it with Blender like this. But it's good to kind of learn these Blender things as well. Kind of missing my 3D mouse right now, but it's not actually in this room that I'm in. So a little bit of directionality again here. I think the idea here is that we will have these kind of slopes, and I will probably use some crease brushes and stuff like that to sort of do a little bit of almost like erosion like things. Add a little bit of erosion to this. Make it look more like a cliff. But remember that this thing is going to be almost completely sitting in the fog. So you won't actually see a whole lot of detail, and that's not the idea with this thing. I think my focus point here is a little strange. Let's make sure we have it set to something like that. There we go, that's better. Yeah, so we don't want to... Oh no, I'm the wrong object selected here. Object mode, that one, and then sculpt. What was I saying? Yeah, so we don't want to actually add a whole lot of detail because it won't be visible. But if we're doing it this way, where we have, you know, we have a mesh made up of the height map, and the HMM tool will be able to triangulate it, hopefully, at least, in such a way that we get the geometric detail in places where we need it, and leave it out in places where we don't need it. Then I think that should be a pretty good way to do like a terrain like this, because we don't really need to worry about are we adding too much, because it's not going to add all that detail all over the terrain. That makes sense. So what do you guys actually do using Blender for, since you're so knowledgeable? This goes for everyone who has chimed in over the months and years that I've been doing this stuff. People working on your own games or what? Or just doing other art with Blender, or do you just know it because you've messed around with Blender so much? Right, I think this shape here is starting to be pretty nice. We have a little bit of the terrain coming through here. I probably will put some sort of prop here, like one of these rocks or something. Same thing probably here in this corner. I don't know, maybe not. Just raise this up a little bit here. Have a little bit more. Like, it's kind of annoying when you're sculpting and it's sort of falling down into some sort of weird pit that's inside of the cliff there. Just bringing it up a little bit. Working for an indie studio. Print the texture in Substance Painter. Ah, okay. How is Substance Painter these days? When it's an Adobe thing, is it still good? To be honest, I haven't really heard much bad about Substance Painter, but you always have to be a little skeptical when it's an Adobe thing, right? Right, do we have some sort of, yeah, hardness is right there, okay. Tip roundness, tip scale. Let's try some of these other blob. That could be kind of interesting, but I think the strength is way too high. High for that. Or maybe it's just not like draw, maybe? So all of these have their individual strength values, which just basically mean that they tend to be too high until you actually start using them. And so I want to sort of inflate this, but I want to inflate it kind of with a direction, right? That's why I'm doing it like this. I hope that makes sense, and it might not. In which case, free to tell me. Right. Let's see. I used to do a lot of character sculpting and other modeling / art, also assets from my own game projects. These days I rarely have time to model. Do some renders once in a while. First thing about Substance is Adobe. Yeah, that's sort of what I've heard as well. That it is in fact still really good. So glad to hear it. Right. So when we're looking at it here in Blender, it kind of looks like it would be obvious that they sort of end here, and we can maybe make them a little longer still. However, when we add the heavy layer of fog that's going to come sort of on top of this, I think it should be pretty good. It should be pretty sort of convincing. It's just sort of supposed to let the player know that, oh, there's something down there. That's kind of what I want this to convey. I think here should be a slightly flatter place. Not completely flat, but flatter. And then when we come here, it can be bumpier, right? I don't really like those. I think we have the wrong brush here probably. Let's see what we have. Crease, inflate. What's inflate doing? It's basically just taking what is there and like blowing it up a little bit, I assume. I'm also doing this with a mouse. Ideally I would use my drawing display for this, but I think I need to be a little more experienced with sculpting in Blender before I actually start using that. There's just so much to like click on and toggle between, and that stuff is kind of a hassle if you're using a drawing display. It's just easier to like get a little bit more acquainted with the tools first, and then start to use the drawing display, because that's how I feel and have felt. Hey Matt, what's up? What is up indeed? Let's add a little bit of a sort of a ridge here, I think. This is kind of like the perfect place for it, if you want to have such a thing. All right, something like that, and then I probably want to smooth this stuff out like a whole lot, and then I think a little too heavy. And then I think actually might be a good idea to do a little bit of that crease stuff. Add back in some of those creases exactly where we want them. Yeah, it's not that bad. Like the overall shape of this is kind of nice. Of course, like now that we're only allowing up and down movement, I hope that is what we're still doing. It sort of limits a little bit what we can do with the sculpting here. Looks dramatic from afar. I'm happy it does that. It's kind of like the idea here. What is that? Constant detail. It has like a weird imperfection here in the terrain, which is kind of like doesn't want to leave. Flatten. Probably flatten it away. That's not really good. Let's not do that. Well, I'll just kill it the old-fashioned way. There we go. Oh, okay. So the constant detail is just set to like a really... I'm trying to undo that thing here. There we go. Constant detail is just set to some like really small thing, right? Resolution 3. Maximum edge length for dynamic topography sculpting. So if we set that to like 10, oh, it's still really small. Oh, is it actually the other way around? So we made it just like infinitely small now. I bet that is what we did. Let's try to undo that. So what I want to do instead is actually 1. Yeah, that now does the thing that I was thinking. Okay, so that's flatten. I think smooth is pretty handy to like just take some of these areas that look like they look a little bit different somehow than the rest of the place. Like this, for example, we have like some pretty gnarly triangulations going on here. Strength is a bit high. If you use the smooth with like a very small force or strength, maybe a bit higher than that though, you can sort of just add a bit more din topo there if you're careful. Yeah. And I will probably have to iterate on this a few times, but we're gonna have to see it in the actual engine to know if it was like good enough or not. So maybe let's do a little bit of that creasing. Some of those creases in there, and then we'll move on to the next step here in this pipeline of things that we want to do to this terrain. Some of these things are still cleaning up a little bit of some of this geometry. Okay. So let's save that, and we take one of the crease ones. That's pinch. It's probably not what I want. Crease. There we go. So this is probably like way too... There we go. It is working. It's just sort of accentuating these a little bit. And yeah, we get actually quite a lot of detail like that. Or quite a lot of geometry. Probably need to maybe turn off that dun topo for this. All right, yeah, let's turn off the dynamic topography for this and do a little bit of creasing here, just very, very faintly. Let's maybe bring down the strength a bit more. This one will probably want to flatten quite a bit. It's way too sort of, maybe actually not even flatten, maybe just like take some of this stuff away. I don't want this thing to reach up, you know, too close to the actual playable area. Because it's supposed to be strictly a background thing. Let's be a little careful with that, and I can modify some of these rocks here so they fit this better. I think that's probably easier than trying to like make this reach up all the way, just to have some rock not be in the air here, because it's badly sized. Yeah, here we have a little bit of that that terrain there from the level editor coming through. I think we will probably trim it down a little bit. So just bring this up a little bit here so that when we get rid of that terrain, the superfluous terrain there, we actually get something that looks nice. What was the crease? There's the crease. Let's do like relative detail here. All right, maybe this is a good sort of jumping off point for the next part of the pipeline. So the next thing would be to bake or render rather a height map from this thing. And isn't that interesting, because Blender doesn't actually support, doesn't have like a built-in module for baking or rendering height maps or displacement maps or whatever you want to call them. Actually, before we do anything else, let's just set it to smooth and see how it looks. Yeah. That's strange. We have some funkiness going on here. What is this? What is that? Don't do that, please. Same thing there. Same thing there. Okay, we have a few of these cases. I would say like Blender, what the hell, but it's probably something I've done. I have no illusions of actually knowing what I'm doing here with this sculpting business. So I'm just gonna assume it was my fault somehow. This is kind of funky though with the Dyntopo stuff. What? I wonder if there's some sort of relaxing brush here that we could use on these. Maybe there is. I don't know. But let's not waste time on this currently. More than we need. Just put in another face there and we're good. And here's something funky as well. What is this? Something funky. Okay. Yeah. This is looking, I would say, solid enough for our purposes. So again, save. And now then, so what we want to do is basically get this thing. And this is actually not a square, so we'll have to sort of fit a square onto this, but because I was thinking we would bake probably like a 2K, maybe a 4K. 2K or 4K height map out of this thing. Okay, so how do we do that? I don't actually know, but I have a hunch how we could maybe do it. So we need to get basically the lowest and the highest point. If anyone knows how we can get the lowest and the highest point of a piece of geometry in a material, then do let me know. Not sure that can be done actually. We might have to do it by hand, but we can luckily do it by hand. So let's create a material. Let's call this like height map or something. Get rid of that. And then we want probably just object info maybe. Location. And I want the Z thing, right? So let's do a, is it remap? What was it called? Map converter. No, it's not called that. What is that? What is the map to and from node called in Blender? I don't remember. It's in the math. Loop Tools add-on, it comes with Blender. Ah, okay. It is with camera depth. So I don't know the setup. Camera info node. Right, sorry, I'm trying to find this. What was it called? There's like a math remapping thing. So I'm trying to remember. I think it's called. Is it map? It's just map. Map range. Yes, here we go. This is what I wanted. Okay, so we just put that into the surface. And then we map from, what's the lowest value here? Just look at one of these corner points. Minus 43.36. So from min, minus 43.36. To one of these guys on the top, 21. Just copy that. Something like that, right? All right, but it's the object info. That's not what we want. We want the what is it called? Is it geometry? Yeah, there we go. Hey, look at that. Look at that. Yeah, that the object info gives the like the pivot point. That's not what we want. So this should give us basically what we want here. Unless I'm mistaken, which I might be. Looks pretty good. We're just gonna have to see what happens, right? So if we go to the output, I'm trying to find where I can display the sRGB. Color ramp can give you fine control too. Yeah, it can. It might be easier to just like ramp the values. I mean, it should be a lerp. It should be just a linear. So you shouldn't have to, you know, mess around with those with any kind of sort of custom mapping, right? You should always just want it to be want it to be a linear interpolation, right? Right. Okay. Let's set up a camera here. I'm like way in the deep end of Blender now. I've only really used it for modeling and occasional, you know, texture painting and that sort of thing. But if we create a camera, where's the camera? There's the camera. And then we take the camera. Where is it? It's right there. And we make the camera an orthographic camera. Rightio. Right, how do I do the camera? Active camera, numpad 0. There we go. So we need to set the camera scale, right? Oh, what is happening to that middle part there? That looks weird. Ah, it's behind it, right? Okay, so we just need to move it up. Location Z. Let's move it up to like 500. It's a bit too much. 200. That looks better. And then up at 0. There we go. And then we can do the scaling again. So scale this, but we need the size, right? Shift X, Shift Y. How do I make this a square? Yeah, that's just shifting. How do I make this a square? Sensor fit. It's probably not it. No depth of field, thank you very much. And that gives us the scaling that we want. But I'm wondering how I do that. The top left. Go to top left. You mean like over here? Oh, the render, right, okay. Yeah, so it's like the render area, or what is it? Output. Blah, 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 blah. It's probably where I actually was previously. There we go, thank you. Yes, exactly. Okay, so resolution, let's make that 2048 by 2048. Okay, that's better. That's better. Now we can go to the camera and we can do the shifting here. A little bit more scaling. Right, can we fit everything? Yeah, let's scale it a bit more. So one thing I learned, but I can't necessarily remember where it is. One thing I learned is that you can actually maybe I should just set those to 0, and then I should just move this guy now that I think about it. So like this, and then we can move the whole camera like this, right? Maybe that's a nicer way to actually tilt this thing, or shift it, whatever they used as the term. Like that. And now we have a bit of an issue here because we have this part here. We obviously want the background to be black, right? Not gray. So there was something with like you could set the output of the background of the output to be transparent, and then if you don't make an alpha channel, then it gets set to black, right? Let's see if we can figure that out. That's the output. RGB. Might be here in the camera, I guess. Let's see. Blender. Transparent background. Where is it? The properties panel on the render properties. Right, so it's here. Navigate the film and transparent. There we go. There we go. Yes, transparent checkbox. Absolutely. Right, and then there was something with like, you know, filmic or whatever it's set to. Is it like the tone mapping or whatever, which you were supposed to set to standard? And so where's that then? Filmic is RGB. There's no standard here though, so it's probably not the sequencer one. It's probably not that one either. Use standard in color management. There we go, exactly. Okay, so AGX, yeah, Filmic, and we want it to be standard. There we go. We can actually see a pretty actually drastic difference there. So that, I think, with a little bit of luck, should be it for actually rendering this thing out. Thanks to Dimitar and Aku for helping me figure this out. I think I wanna move this ever so slightly to the left still. Make sure we don't cut that thing off. Okay, so let's try this. I'm gonna save. And then we render and it looks like ass. That's not good. Eevee. I might have to like re-watch that tutorial that I looked at previously for this. I mean, they did the actual material a little differently. I think this is kind of like the simplest way to do it, and that I kind of find is working, but the rendering I almost never do. Try view and view render image. Somewhere here. I mean this. And that looks strange. I don't know what is going on here. Viewport render image. What do you mean? Viewpoint? No. Oh, viewport render image. There we go. That one. Okay. That did work. Interesting. So what is the difference between just pressing F12? Take a snapshot of the active viewport. What if I do this and then I press that? Does it give it? Yeah, then it gives us this. Okay. So this essentially gives us what we want. Now if I save or save a copy, maybe, I don't know. Desktop, just test, and we save it as RGBA. This is now PNG, which is not. I know it is not actually optimal for height map images, but the HMM tool that we're going to want to use doesn't, as far as I know, work with like OpenEXR or something like that. Yeah, I need to turn off the overlay. I just wanted to see that this top thing here is actually working. So we need to turn off that, but we probably need to turn it off here, right? And now I can render the image. And we can sort of see it without any crap on. So there's our output. It's a little funky, can't be denied, but it is something. Yeah, so render image, that's just render active scene. Okay, so this apparently has some scene wide settings that kind of interfere with that a little bit. I'm not really gonna look into that right now. We just take that guy and we go to the next part here in the thing, right? So let's go to means data, work folder root, map depot, background terrain, work, and do height map. And then I'm gonna copy the HMM.exe and I'm gonna copy tessellate.bat. Let's edit that. And let's see what we have. So basically height map PNG is that thing that we want. Tessellated, yeah, it can be that. It generates a normal map for us, which I don't think we don't have like a lot of use for, to be honest. We are going to want to bake that normal map against the high resolution version later. C1 is fine. Error, we're gonna have to see if that is okay. 600 is probably way too high. Let's see what is the so it's 21 minus or plus rather here, so 64. Let's try with 64. See what that gives us. That's essentially like the vertical scale, if I remember correctly. And that gives us this tessellated.stl. We can bring that into Blender once again. I think I'm gonna put the floor back on here. And I'll hide the camera. And so we'll take this guy and bring it in. And I'm just gonna import it, and then we can fix up the thing later. So probably scale to like scale to 0.5 maybe. Right, we need to fit it onto that thing. Actually, maybe the camera can be quite useful in this case. I think that's probably fine. And then we now take this. They kind of sit on top of each other, but the vertical scale is not correct. You know, something like that. You can see that it kind of matches. Not quite though. But I think the things that don't match are the things that are actually inside of the terrain there. So that doesn't really matter. The bigger problem here is that like, yeah, the HMM tool did get rid of a lot of these, you know, these things here out where it's flat, but it's still like super highly tessellated inside of that. So we're gonna have to do something about that. There's also some strange things going on here. Like here is here's a little bit of extra tessellated, a small patch of something, right? It's basically completely flat. It is in fact probably exactly flat. And what HMM is doing is it's raising it up a little bit. That's a little annoying. But okay, let's lower the error. Actually, let's raise the error. Allowed error quite a lot. So we can do this like, let's make that like this tessellated 1. Then we have something to compare to. I'm gonna put the error up quite a lot, like 0.25 maybe. And I think that should be maybe around 128. It is, yeah, it is possible that I had some sort of range there incorrectly set. It is indeed possible. Now I guess I should be able to snap this to that guy if I make that the active one, right? And then I can maybe scale, if we set it to 3D cursor, scale. Oh, not 3D cursor actually, active element is what I want. There we go. Scale it down. Yeah, we get a lot of stuff here still. That's kind of, you know, way too detailed. And this also kind of looks a little wrong, maybe. Let's do one version where we just set the allowed error. I don't know actually in which unit that is. So maximum triangulation error. I wonder if that is that like in world space, or shall we say local space here in the model space. Set that like 0.75. See what that gives us. So that would be tessellated 2. Oh, I was looking at the wrong one. Okay. All right. It's getting late. Clearly, it's getting late. Right, so what do we have here now then? This is already looking a lot better. But not necessarily good. If we have the original, the camera is a bit huge there. If we have the original, looks like that. Yeah, there's something funky with this. This thing here is way too high, right? Or is it? Yeah, that's the one we don't want. We want the plain one. Yeah, you can see that it's supposed to be much lower than that. This black one here below it, something like that. Okay. Yep. Well. Like I said, I haven't done this this whole sort of pipeline of processing ever, so there's a lot of unknowns here. I probably need to mess around with this a little bit more to sort of really understand all of the kind of pitfalls that you can run into. I do wonder if the height map is, you know, correctly is being correctly generated though. I kind of feel like these kinds of things where this is just slightly higher than it should be, it's one of those things that could be pretty easily, that could pretty easily happen if you have some sort of gamma scale or something, right? It's not actually exactly sitting on the plane either, but it's close enough. Yeah, that doesn't really explain, you know, the difference between here and here. But at least I'm getting sort of like the kind of triangle counts that I was going for with this. So if we take away that one and then that one, so we have 140,000 vertices here, and with the second one we have just 2,500. So we can probably even go higher than this, right? So let's not do that. Let's not even do that. What was it in the beginning? It was 005. So let's make it 015, and we can make that like maybe 128 is fine. And then we bring in the plane, not the other ones. Again, the camera is very handy for this stuff here. Yeah, there's clearly something, some sort of, you know, color ramp or something going on with this that I need to fix before they will look similar. You can see that like the kind of direction here has like a pretty smooth. It kind of turns slightly upwards as it reaches this bottom floor here. It does actually the opposite here. It kind of turns downwards as it reaches the floor. And so I don't really have another explanation for that except the fact that like the height map is somehow being treated incorrectly. Like the value is very close to 0. These values here, they are sort of way higher here than they should be, right? If that makes sense. It can help to do a blur in the height map like in Krita. Yeah, probably. Probably we could do that. We can try and see what happens. So let's take do a copy of that thing. I'm just gonna call this normal map blurred. And I probably have, I don't know, maybe I have Krita on this one, but I do have GIMP at least, so let's try with GIMP and see what happens. Because of course, this thing is now using vertex colors. Oh, that's a normal map, that's not the one I wanted. I want height map. Height map blurred, right? This guy is using normal, sorry, it's using vertex colors. So you can see these sort of lines here, and then these 45 degrees. These are the quads, and then the colors are interpolated between them, like this. There might be a way to get a nicer height map out of Blender. I think my way might be a little bit crappy. Well, let's see what a blur does. Just, you know, as a fun exercise here. See what a blur does. So split view maybe. I'm gonna go down here. We can drag this thing. You can see that. Okay, yeah, it's blurring, but might need actually a little bit more. Something like that. This of course will get rid of some of that detail. Maybe not that much. So let's override that thing and see what that does now. If we do like a tessellate blurred. That would be height map blurred and tessellated blurred. So I'm not gonna move this into place because this is really kind of not what I want, but yeah, I don't know. There might be some use to blurring. Look into camera depth when you have the time to bake the height map. There's a good tutorial on it. I will. So I'm assuming it uses like the camera depth almost like you're rendering sort of like a shadow map or something like that. That of course would be technically a depth map, not a height map, but with an orthographic camera, I guess the sort of ideas are probably close enough to be transferable. So I just had to look here at quickly at what came up when I googled how to do height maps in Blender, and here's one that seems to do kind of similar things. Using a color ramp, a linear color ramp, this actually is almost exactly what we did, except they're doing an emission. I wonder if we should do an emission as well. Would that actually help? And then they're using OpenEXR, and that makes perfect sense. The problem is that I can't really do that if I want to feed it to HMM, which I guess like that might be our problem. That might be like the whole problem, right? If the problem is that like values close to 0 are not correct, then that might be because of the gamma curve, which is applied if you export it as a PNG, right? So, question is, does HMM work with EXR files? HMM supports a variety of file formats, PNG, JPEG, etc. for the input height map. That doesn't tell us a whole lot. Can we actually see here what we go to file? Can I not search in this? Maybe I can. PNG. It just finds files. Okay. It is using STB image though. Does this actually support the XR files? I'm assuming it is using this to actually read the thing. I can't find EXR at least, so. All right. Well, that's a little annoying. What do we have? TGA, PMP, PSD, GIF, HDR, PIC, PNM, PNG, JPEG. Yeah, that's a little unfortunate. Like, I've only used HMM once for the terrain stuff, and it was just like for a very large kind of background terrain, which was not really supposed to like connect to anything. And here we are doing, you know, doing stuff like this where we want. Let's get rid of that. Where we do things like this, where we want to have it line up nicely with this other terrain. And so it's much more important that we get those values not just like seemingly right, but like actually right. If that makes sense. Okay, well, this got tricky, but hey, sometimes that is what happens. I still kind of like the idea though. I think I'm gonna have to research this a little bit more, and still gonna want to do something like this, right? Let's actually play the game and not just look at it here in the editor to get a sense for like what the player is gonna be looking at. So So if you sort of drive close to the cliff here, we can do it with the mother vehicle as well. You're kind of only supposed to see that, like, okay, there's something there, and then out here on the big plane, we'll do some really low poly. Low poly mountains and stuff as well. I can show you what I have in the other level. It actually works really quite well. But here you can get pretty close to this. And like, yeah, I don't like this when the terrain is that bad. Another thing that I could do if I wanted to was to actually use the engine's terrain system for this. So currently here we have a terrain. This is 1K, I think. I think it is a 1K terrain. Let's have a look. Yeah, 1K. Or what? It's 125 because it's like 1024 patches. So 125 times 125, and it covers basically like the sort of similar area to what this terrain would have to cover. Now we could maybe scale that down quite significantly, so we could work with like a 512 or something like that, maybe even 256, and then just use the CPU tessellation, tessellate it completely on the CPU. It even chops it up into pieces and then does LOD on those. We'll probably want to have the LOD set to like basically be the full LOD all the time if we use something that low poly to begin with. Server spam, and yeah, no worries, no reason to apologize for anything. Look in the Blender compositing tab. You can do two cool things in there. Yeah, I've done a few things in the compositing tab. Quite remember what they were. I've used it for some things. Oh yeah, this sort of thing. You just get like a very sort of slight sort of hint that, you know, that the terrain is continuing down there. It's not just an empty sort of plane. It's not a single quad. That is what I'm trying to convey here. So I'm hoping this will work. This part is still completely undone. Very much in progress. The same thing here. So I think the idea is right. I just need to figure out how to do it sort of technically. And also I need to rehearse my Blender sculpting a little bit. But yeah, no need to apologize for anything. It was a good talk and there were some good tips. I guess normal map and textures will look nice. Yeah. That is kind of what I was thinking I would do. So I can actually show you from the previous project here. We have the background terrain Blender file here. I haven't probably opened this in like 3 years or something, so let's see if I can remember anything at all. But this is like the terrain that I was talking about previously. So we have like the high density version, or high definition version. Looks like this, and this is really heavily densely tessellated. Blender just completely dies on me when I try to go into edit mode here. There we go. Hey, so you know, stuff like this, and then we have the other version, which is the one that's used in game, which is significantly simpler. And I render this not with this exact material. This is kind of a horrible material, but still a vastly simplified version, and I render that in game. Oh, sorry, I can't see my chat when Visual Studio is jumping to the other screen. Hey, X Luxi and Nolrum, welcome back. Currently watching from a train filled with Danish people. Oh, that's something. That is indeed something. I don't have anything against Danish people, but I do feel like a bus filled with children is going to be infinitely worse. I don't have anything against children either. I have a couple of my own, but a bus filled with them sounds like a bit too much. Right, so if we go in here and we take a look at the background here, you can see this is the terrain we just looked at in Blender, and I think this looks really nice. This is now has a normal map applied here in the engine, and with enough of this fog going on here, it looks pretty decent as a background thing. Right. And so I'm thinking something like this. Lancer by the garage. There we go. So something like this. You know, with the right parameters, it can clearly work out. But yeah, it didn't quite work out there for traction point this time around. What about let's see. When switching over to NVRH, had you ever had issues with it straight up crashing while in debug build? It works fine for Vulkan. Right, I haven't actually done any Vulkan yet. So this is D3D12 right now, and the editors I still use D3D11 for. I have some issues with D3D12 and I need to sort out. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But yeah, I haven't done any Vulkan other than I have played around with their donut examples a little bit, and Vulkan's worked fine there, so it hasn't been an issue. I did have a crash though in D3D11, which I was kind of vocal and angry about over at Discord. But that was something different, I'm sure. Right, so then the big plane, I'm probably gonna do something like this. These are just like hand modeled, like a few small bumps here and there. That I'm probably gonna gonna do the same thing in that other level, and that I'm hoping that will look nice. So currently only support D3 11 and 12. Yeah, I basically the reason for going with NVRHI was that I wanted to support D3D12 properly. I haven't really sort of started that work yet. I kind of actually I've been so busy with actual game development rather than like render development that I figured I would wait until probably like after the summer to start with the D3D12 thing. Then I did that one stream where I just as a goof I started writing the D3D12 backend, and it kind of just worked. We had a lot of glitches, graphical glitches and things like that in that. But then I spent, I think, like maybe one like 8-hour work day after that just fixing that stuff up, and now I have, well, now this is D3D12 and it runs this well. But yeah, like I said in the NVRHI video, there's some issues here that I need to figure out, but I still have sort of like the same idea that yeah, like I I need to fix D3D12, but I haven't gotten around to it yet because I've been so busy with actual game stuff. And I want to support DXIL shaders or whatever D3D12 wants at that point. Vulkan might be interesting to support at some point, but I'm in no hurry to do that because I don't really see any business reasons in supporting that, or indeed technical ones for that matter. If I have the DX12 working well, then I think I'm pretty good. I am, however, already compiling my shaders to SPUR-V, so it shouldn't be super difficult to get Vulkan working, but I don't want to open that kind of worms until I have like proper time to do it and like an actual use case. But I assume you have turned on your validation layers, right? Your Vulkan validation layers. And I assume you also have turned on the NVRHI validation. Nolan says, I find it quite interesting to have just one primary engine version that multiple project games can share. How has that worked out for you thus far? Would you recommend it? Yeah, it has its benefits for sure. It also comes with a lot of, well, not a lot necessarily, depends on what you do, of course. But like I fixed some issues with the shadow rendering a few days ago. So previously you had some like really quite bad shadow flickering things with the GPU tessellated terrain. This is GPU tessellated now here in the editor. You can flip a switch here and you get the pre-tessellated version. You can see some changes there in how the LOD levels go. So previously, like, the pre-tessellated version was like rendering correctly, the thing we have in the game, but the shadows in the editor were just flickering wildly. And I fixed that, and then I needed to like actually go in and do the same fixes in Slide, because they sort of share the data. Well, they don't share the data. That is perhaps the problem. They have the separate data, but a lot of the stuff in there is actually shared. So I would say like the data side is perhaps a bigger issue for me right now. If you mean like sharing here in Visual Studio just a single DLL, then that's not really a problem at all. I have a lot of things actually just linking to that same single DLL. Basically all of these SVG, material, mesh, Probably not particle system actually. Maybe it is. Shader compiler and video converter, all of those are linking to the same DLL anyway. So, get Vulkan SDK, yeah. Huh. Yeah, you definitely have something strange going on if you get like that Vulkan header version assertion. That shouldn't be happening. It kind of sounds like you're linking to one version, but like including the headers from another version. Or something. If that makes sense. That doesn't sound right. Let's have a quick look here. Yeah, is that line that you're talking about? Is that like something in your own code, or is that something in the Vulkan SDK? Not sure I have any Vulkan SDKs actually installed. They typically go here, right? I have something, but it's pretty old, probably 1.3. Yeah, that sounds strange. Sounds strange. However, if it is asserting that, or if the assertion is failing, then I would assume that it is in fact either it is, you know, how should I explain this? You have this piece of thing here which should match, right? So I don't know what this does. Does it get it from where? Does that just get it from, like, what is D, for example? Is that like the debug layer wrapper or whatever? But this is like a runtime thing potentially, and this is a compile time thing. I'm fine with the assertion failing. I wouldn't be, like, you, and I don't think you should be fine with that. That sounds like a really bad thing to happen. And it also sounds like something that should be pretty simple to fix. Like, fix that first. If you want my opinion, fix that first, and then go looking for the release version thing if the crash is still there once you've had that fixed, right? Yeah, I don't know exactly what this thing does. Does it just get it from this in some you know, dynamic library or whatever? But this is a potentially runtime thing. It could be compile time because you could just read it from a constant. This is a compile time thing. So depending on where this is called, where it actually gets the value from, doesn't match what you're currently compiling. But yeah, I don't know what to tell you basically, but I wouldn't be okay with an assertion like that failing. If I'm being honest here, that's why it's there. It should go. Hold up a minute, immediately. And of course, it is possible that you are quite simply linking to one version in release and another one in debug. That's a possibility as well. All right, folks. What did we learn today? We learned that I need to study, well, quite a few things actually. We also learned that this is probably the way to go. I'm kind of liking this, and I would like to be better at actually sculpting in Blender. So I think I'm gonna probably continue with this, but I need to figure out, well, first of all, there's probably some really neat and handy way to do height maps in, like export height maps out of Blender. And then if I want to do the HMM route, then I need to potentially counteract that gamma correction thing, which happens due to, you know, PNG formats or whatever. Just that they get linear values out of it. But this is not the only way to do this thing, and that's not the only tool that can give us that sort of simplification. So I probably want to investigate some other options for doing that sort of thing. My voice starting to give out again. But yeah, I'm liking this idea and this sort of like feeling that, okay, there's something there. Can't quite see what it is. Indeed, you're not really supposed to see what it is. And then adding some sort of mounds and hills there in the background. I think that will look quite convincing. So that's going to be my work for tomorrow, I think. But we've done a couple of hours of this now. I think it is probably time for me to say good night to you all, or good morning, or good evening, or good day, depending on where in the world you are. If you would like to play the game, I have put out a first pre-alpha 1 version, which you can access if you join the Discord. There's a link in the description below. You're welcome to join the Discord and continue the discussion over there. And you can also play the game. It's pretty rough, and if you'd like to wait a bit longer and get a more polished build, then by all means do that. But if you want to try out the admittedly already a little old pre-alpha 1 build, then join the Discord and get the build from there. And yes, Dimitar, I will look at the multi-res modifier. Thank you for reminding me. Put that on the list as well. I have some homework to do. That's not really something I necessarily need for this though, but there's definitely something I want to check out. But yes, that would be that. If you like this kinds of videos, then or streams, then be sure to subscribe so that I can let you know when I do more of them. And remember to like and subscribe and click all the buttons, the bell icons, everything. And thank you to everyone who came to hang out.